Did you see a girl?
Chicago O'Hare Plaza.
O.J. Simpson, please.
One moment.
Hello?
Is this O.J. Simpson?
Yeah, who's this?
This is Detective Tom Lang from the Los Angeles Police Department. I have some bad news. Your ex-wife, Nicole Simpson, has been killed.
Oh my God. Nicole has been killed? Oh my God, is she dead?
Yes. I'm so sorry, Mr. Simpson.
I'll be on the first flight out of Chicago tomorrow. Be back in LA tomorrow.
What is it? You didn't ask how she died.
Did you talk to Kathy Randa?
After Arnell dialed the phone number and got a hold of her, yes.
And in the course of your conversation with Kathy Randa, did you ascertain that Mr. Simpson was on a prearranged trip to Chicago?
The word prearranged wasn't used. She told me that he had left the night before on a red eye and he had flown to Chicago and that's where he was at now.
And she knew also which hotel he was in also, isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
And what was that hotel? Do you recall?
The Chicago O'Hare Plaza Hotel, I believe.
All right. Now, what time of morning was this?
Right just a few minutes after 6 o'clock in the morning.
All right. And at that time, as I understand it, you didn't know anything at all about how the two individuals had met their death. Isn't that correct?
No, we had not done any crime scene investigation at that time.
Right. Because we know that because in the conversation at 6:49, you were telling the coroner that they may have been bludgeoned to death or shot. Isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
So you didn't know anything about these particular deaths that much, did you?
Did not know how they had been killed, no.
All right. And then armed with the information given to you by Kathy Randa with regard to the hotel, you then were able to get the hotel information. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you then placed a call to the hotel in Chicago. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You were connected to an operator, were you not?
Someone who answered the phone at the hotel, yes.
And did you ask for Mr. O.J. Simpson's room?
Yes, I did.
So then you rang a room that was supposed to be Mr. O.J. Simpson's room, and the call, this was shortly after the 6 o'clock a.m. on June 13th. Is that correct?
Yes.
And with regard to this, you did, in fact, make a report regarding this aspect of your involvement, did you not?
Yes, I did.
And have you seen that and read that over recently?
Yes, sir.
And this report that is numbered, Council 0829, from June 13th, 1994, location 360 Rockingham, labeled statement. You have it?
Took place.
This is a statement by Detective 3 Ronald Phillips, right?
That's correct.
And there's your identifying number.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? You told Mr. Simpson, according to your statement, that you gave him your name. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You told him that you had to relay some bad information to him. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And then thereafter, you then at some point in the conversation said to Mr. Simpson that your ex-wife, Nicole, had been killed. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And when you said that, Mr. Simpson became very, very upset on the phone. Isn't that correct?
Yes, he did.
In fact, yesterday you said that he became understandably, or you expected that he would be upset by this information. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And in becoming upset, he said to you, "What do you mean she's been killed?" He asked you that right off, didn't he? What do you mean she's been killed?
Well,
Did
he
say that?
kept repeating himself and talking to himself over and over and over.
Well, let me ask you this
repeating.
question, if I might.
Well,
Let me ask you this question. I'm looking in front of your report. Well,
The witness be permitted to finish his answer?
I was trying to get it to be responsive.
There was a specific question that was not responsive to that question.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Cochran.
Thank you. in referring to your report, when it says, Mr. Simpson replied, "What do you mean she's been killed?" Do you remember him saying that? You wrote that in your report?
Okay.
Do you remember that?
All right, yes.
Okay. And when he said, "What do you mean she's been killed?" did you say, "Mr. Simpson, I'm going to tell you all about this. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened, how many people were killed"? You didn't say that, did you?
I never had a chance.
All right, but you never said that, did you?
I never had a chance, and I never said it.
I never said it, and you didn't know at that point, did you? You
Did
couldn't have
not
told,
know the means by which they had been killed.
right? Because 45 minutes later, when you're talking in the corner, you said they may have been bludgeoned to death or shot. Isn't that correct?
Did not know the means by which they had been killed, sir.
So you never responded to O.J. Simpson's request, "What do you mean she's been killed?" And is it your statement that he was upset about that, was he not?
Yes, he was.
As you expected. And then he went on to say, "Oh my God, Nicole is dead. Oh my God." And he continued repeating himself in an upset fashion. Isn't that correct?
Yes, he did.
And at some point, didn't you try to get him to get hold of himself from an emotional standpoint?
Yes, I did.
And he kept repeating himself. "She's been killed. What do you mean she's been killed? Oh my God, Nicole is dead." And he repeated himself over and over again.
That's correct.
He seemed to be very upset, right?
Yes.
This is the first time you'd ever talked to him.
Yes.
And you went on to say in your report, and what happened was you tried to talk to Mr. Simpson. However, for several seconds, he was repeating himself over and over again about Nicole being dead. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
He seemed to you to be stunned, did he not?
Seemed to be upset.
All right. And then in your report, you indicate, "I finally was able to tell Mr. Simpson that we had his children at the West Los Angeles police station." So you said that at some point. Isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And this was after he went through being very upset, asking this question, and talking and repeating himself over and over again.
I finally got him to listen to me again, yes.
All right. Now, when you finally were able to tell Mr. Simpson that we had his children at West Los Angeles police station, Mr. Simpson then said, "Why do the police have my kids? Where are my kids?" Isn't that correct?
Yes.
All right. And then you then advised Mr. Simpson that we had taken his children to the station because we had no one to turn his children over to. And that, without prompting, Mr. Simpson told you that he would immediately return home to Los Angeles as soon as he could get a flight. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
You then gave Mr. Simpson your pager and station number so he could call back if he had any further questions. Is that correct?
And I even believe Mr. Simpson did page me, but I never got the page. It was at the office.
And you became aware that he did page you back at some point.
I had a note on my desk that I had received a page from Mr. Simpson, yes.
But you never called him back, did you? Because you didn't get the pager, you didn't get it in time, right?
That's correct.
But you became aware that at some time after this, Mr. Simpson paged you to try and talk to you further. Isn't that correct?
Well, I don't know why he was paging me. All I can tell you is that he paged me and probably wanted to talk to me.
Right.
I never had an opportunity to talk to him.
I understand. But you would agree with me, would you not, that if he paged you, after you gave him the pager number, he probably wanted to talk to you. Would you agree with that?
I would imagine so.
Okay. And when you were talking about the children, what would happen to the children, Mr. Simpson said to you, "Let me talk to my daughter Arnell." Didn't he at some point?
Yes, he did.
And you then, being cooperative, you then gave the phone to his daughter Arnell, who was also upset there. Isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
And she was crying, wasn't she also?
Yes, she was.
And then you then heard a conversation that went on between Arnell speaking into the phone to her father. Isn't that correct?
Well, she was talking to her father. Yes, I wasn't paying too much attention to the conversation.
But you could tell she was talking into the phone.
Yes, sir.
And you know she was talking to her father.
Yes, sir.
So then she had a conversation with her father, and some arrangements were made for her to pick up the children, at least till you get back to town. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And after that conversation, did she and Mr. A.C. Cowlings then arrange to go down to the station and pick up the children?
Mr. Cowlings arrived, and Arnell introduced me to him and said that they were going to go pick him up, so I called another sergeant at the station and informed them of who was coming to the West Los Angeles Police Station to pick these children up, and it was okay to turn them over to the people that were coming.
All right. at some point then, back to the situation, when Mr. Simpson finished speaking with his daughter, and then arrangements were made for the children to be picked up, you didn't talk back to him at that point, is that correct?
Talk to who, sir?
Back to Mr. Simpson at that point?
No, sir.
The phone was not handed back to you, right?
No, I believe she hung up.
All right, she hung up the phone, right? All right. Did you ascertain when you got your page? And do you still have that little message where you got a pager?
Well, like I said, I gave him my pager number, and I also gave him my phone number at the office. And when I said I received a page, I was in error of that because I think he called the station looking for me at the station because there was a message note on my desk that Mr. Simpson had called.
And I was just trying to find out, did you know when that was approximately?
I would have no idea. I don't remember when, if there was even a time when that message was taken.
All right. All you know is you tried. You can't tell us when that was, right?
He tried, left a message.
And you can't tell us the time is what
No,
I'm asking
sir.
you. Okay, that's fine. No problem. You asked a lot of questions yesterday by Ms. Clark about details of this or whatever. You never in that conversation ever mentioned that there were 2 people killed? Did you? Never mentioned that, did you?
No, sir.
You only talked about Nicole Brown Simpson. Is that right?
That's correct.
You didn't know any details about the killing. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
You wouldn't have shared any details about the killing if anybody had asked you. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Even if you did know, right?
Right.
And so when he asked you the question, what do you mean she's been killed? You never answered that, or you couldn't answer it anyway. Isn't that correct?
I never had a chance to answer it, and I probably wouldn't have told him then anyways.
Now, after this...